I'm Morgan Foster, 28 years old and working as an accountant with a modest income that never impressed my status-conscious family. For the past 2 years, I've been living in my mother's house, carefully saving every penny for my first real estate purchase while watching my younger sister Vanessa bask in the family spotlight with her expensive influencer lifestyle. When I discovered an abandoned Victorian-era house selling for only $900 at a tax auction, I felt an immediate connection that I couldn't explain, like this forgotten place was calling specifically to me. Before I tell you how my family reacted to my decision, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you're ready for a story about finding worth in what others discard. Growing up in our middle-class suburban neighborhood, appearances always mattered more than substance in the Foster household. My mother, Elaine, built her career as a realtor specializing in luxury properties, and though we never quite belonged in the wealthy circles she aspired to join, she dedicated herself to maintaining the perfect facade. Our home was always immaculate, our clothes always trendy, and our achievements always carefully curated for maximum social impact. While I inherited my father's practical nature and quiet temperament, my sister Vanessa, 3 years younger than me, was mother's perfect mini-me, beautiful, charming, and innately understanding of how to leverage social connections. When Instagram and TikTok emerged during Vanessa's high school years, mother immediately recognized the potential and invested heavily in equipment, photographers, and even minor cosmetic procedures to help launch Vanessa's career as a lifestyle influencer. By contrast, my decision to major in accounting was met with thinly veiled disappointment. "Playing it safe, as usual," mother had commented when I received my college acceptance letter, the achievement overshadowed just weeks later by Vanessa's first sponsored post deal. My father, though quietly supportive of my choices, rarely contradicted mother's vision for our family. His sudden heart attack 3 years ago left a void that somehow amplified the existing family dynamics. The modest life insurance policy and savings he left behind went mostly under mother's control, with the understanding it would be used for family advancement, a term that increasingly seemed to translate to Vanessa's career. After a painful breakup with my college boyfriend and a job relocation, I temporarily moved back into my childhood bedroom, telling myself it was a smart financial decision while I built my savings. What had intended to be a 6-month stay had stretched to 2 years, during which I'd managed to save just over $40,000 through careful budgeting, bringing lunches to work, driving my 10-year-old Honda, and declining invitations. That didn't align with my financial goals. Each milestone, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in my savings account, kept me motivated through uncomfortable family dinners where my accomplishments at the accounting firm were footnotes to Vanessa's latest collaboration or follower count milestone. When Vanessa announced her plans to launch a luxury wellness retreat in Sedona as her next business investment, mother's excitement was palpable. "This is exactly the kind of venture that will take you to the next level," she gushed over dinner, while scrolling through the professional mock-ups Vanessa had commissioned. I noticed the significant startup costs listed in the business plan but said nothing, as mother hinted broadly that family should support family when they have a vision this promising. The expectation hung in the air, unspoken, but unmistakable. My carefully accumulated savings were suddenly viewed not as my future, but as Vanessa's stepping stone. As I excused myself early from that dinner, claiming work deadlines, I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror and barely recognized the woman who had become so accustomed to feeling invisible in her own family's home. Something needed to change, and soon. My interest in real estate began as an escape from the mounting tension at home. Each evening after work, I'd browse listings online, calculating mortgage payments and renovation budgets for hypothetical properties. It started as a distraction, but evolved into genuine research as I educated myself on property values, inspection concerns, and investment potential. On a particularly frustrating Tuesday after another dinner dominated by Vanessa's retreat plans, I expanded my search parameters to include foreclosures and auctions, more out of curiosity than serious intent. That's when I saw it, a dilapidated, Victorian-era house listed in an upcoming tax auction with a starting bid of just $900. The listing showed only one exterior photo of a clearly neglected property with peeling paint, overgrown vegetation, and a partially collapsed front porch. Most people would have scrolled past immediately, but something made me click and read further. Located in the historic district of a small town 30 minutes from my current job, the property had been abandoned after the elderly owner passed away without heirs, and property taxes had gone unpaid for 3 years. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in my career and drove out to see the property in person. The reality was both worse and better than the online photo suggested. The yard resembled a small jungle, with weeds reaching the first-floor windows and several volunteer saplings growing precariously close to the foundation. The slate roof had visible gaps, the paint had peeled to reveal multiple previous colors, and the wraparound porch sagged dangerously. Yet beyond these obvious flaws, I could see the bones of something magnificent. Intricate gingerbread trim partially intact under the eaves, original stained glass transoms above solid wood doors, and the graceful proportions that characterize Victorian architecture. I didn't enter the house that day. Legally, I couldn't. But I took dozens of photos and spent my lunch hour at the county records office researching its history. The house had been built in 1893 by a local merchant who'd made his fortune in textiles. For almost a century, it had remained in the same family until the last descendant, an elderly woman named Margaret Winters, had passed away without children. Fascinated, I reached out to my college friend Tyler, now a contractor specializing in historic renovations. When I texted him the listing photos, he immediately called me. "The structure looks salvageable," he said, his voice reflecting professional curiosity. "These old Victorians were built to last. If the foundation is solid and there's no major water damage, it could be an amazing project." 2 days later, Tyler accompanied me to a proper inspection of the interior, arranged through the auction company. The inside was a time capsule, dusty but largely intact original hardwood floors, ornate ceiling medallions, a sweeping staircase with hand-carved balusters, and even some period light fixtures. True, there was significant work needed. The kitchen and bathrooms were hopelessly outdated. The electrical system would need complete replacement, and water stains on several ceilings indicated roof leaks. But after 3 hours of thorough examination, Tyler gave me his professional assessment. Structurally, it's remarkably sound. You're looking at roughly $35,000 for essential renovations: roof, electrical, plumbing, one functional bathroom, and a basic kitchen. If you're willing to do some of the cosmetic work yourself and live through the renovations, you could make this place amazing on your budget. That night, I created a detailed spreadsheet, $900. For purchase, approximately $35,000 for critical renovations, leaving a small buffer for unexpected issues. It would nearly deplete my savings, but I would own a home outright, with no mortgage. As I compared historical photos from the county archives to my pictures of the current state, I couldn't help but see parallels to my own situation, something with inherent value, overlooked and underestimated by those who couldn't see past the surface problems. The auction was scheduled for the following week, and as I registered as a potential bidder, I felt the first genuine excitement I'd experienced in years. 3 days before the auction, Mother announced a special family dinner, mentioning that Aunt Patricia and Uncle Richard would be joining us, along with my cousins. "Vanessa has a comprehensive presentation about her retreat," she informed me, "while scheduling a hair appointment. Wear something appropriate. Patricia always notices these things." I selected a conservative blue dress from my work wardrobe and arrived in the dining room to find it transformed with Mother's best china, fresh flower arrangements, and printed materials at each place setting. Vanessa, stunning in a cream designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly salary, connected her laptop to our TV for her presentation. Dinner conversation centered entirely around Vanessa's growing influence and connections until Mother tapped her glass for attention. "As you know, we've gathered to discuss an exciting opportunity," she began, nodding to Vanessa. For the next 20 minutes, my sister delivered a polished presentation about her planned wellness retreat, exclusive, experience-focused, with authentic spiritual elements and premium pricing. The financial section revealed startup costs of $50,000, with projected returns beginning after 18 months. "We've secured partial funding through my partnership arrangements," Vanessa explained, "but we need additional family investment to maintain controlling interest." Uncle Richard, impressed, immediately offered $5,000. Aunt Patricia followed with the same. Mother beamed with pride, announcing her own $10,000 contribution. All eyes turned to me expectantly. "Well, Morgan?" Mother prompted. "This is exactly the sort of family opportunity you've been saving for." The assumption left me momentarily speechless. I cleared my throat, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "Actually, I've been saving for my own investment. Opportunity, I'm buying a house." This announcement was met with curious interest until I showed them the property photos on my phone. Aunt Patricia's expression shifted from interest to horror. Uncle Richard awkwardly passed the phone back without comment. Mother laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. "Surely you're joking. That's not a house. It's a demolition project." "It needs work," I acknowledged. "But the structure is sound and—" "Morgan always had unusual tastes," Mother interrupted, turning to our relatives. "But this is extreme even for her. Darling, that's not a sensible investment." "It's $900 at auction, plus renovation costs," I explained, attempting to outline Tyler's assessment before Vanessa cut in. $900? That's literally the cost of one night at the retreat. If the property had actual value, it wouldn't sell for so little. "Many people can't see past cosmetic issues," I responded, a subtle edge entering my voice. "But I've done my research." Mother's expression hardened. "Research or not, your sister's business is a much more appropriate use of your savings. You've always been so practical. For once, couldn't you support something visionary?" The conversation escalated as I explained I'd already registered for the auction. "You would waste your entire savings on this junk house rather than invest in your sister's future?" Mother's volume increased with each word. "I'm not wasting anything. I'm investing in my own future," I replied, struggling to maintain composure. "And I've already decided." Mother's face flushed with anger. "This is unbelievably selfish. Your sister has worked so hard to create real opportunities while you've been playing it safe your entire life. The one time your family needs your support, you choose this?" She gestured dismissively at my phone. Aunt Patricia interjected with forced concern. "Morgan, dear, have you been feeling well lately? These kinds of impulsive decisions can sometimes indicate stress or even depression." "I'm not being impulsive," I countered, my hands beginning to tremble under the table. "I've spent weeks researching this property and consulting with a professional contractor." "Weeks?" Vanessa's perfect eyebrows arched dramatically. "You've been planning this for weeks while knowing about my retreat plans, while I've been including family investment in my business model?" The guilt trip was expertly delivered, making me the villain despite the fact that no one had actually asked if I wanted to invest in her project. They had simply assumed my savings were available. As dinner concluded with uncomfortable tension, Mother pulled me into the kitchen under the pretense of helping with dessert. "You will not embarrass this family with this ridiculous project," she hissed, her voice low but intense. "You will call tomorrow and withdraw from that auction, and you will contribute to Vanessa's retreat like everyone else in this family who matters." For the first time in my adult life, I looked directly into my mother's eyes and said simply, "No." The stunned silence that followed was oddly empowering. The morning after the disastrous family dinner, I was preparing for work when Mother entered my bedroom without knocking. Her face was composed, but her eyes remained cold. "I've been thinking about your announcement last night," she began, sitting, uninvited on the edge of my bed. "And I've decided to give you a choice." She smoothed an invisible wrinkle from her silk robe. "Either you reconsider this foolish house purchase and contribute to your sister's business like a proper family member, or you can move out immediately." The ultimatum hung in the air between us. "I'm not changing my mind about the house," I replied, continuing to apply mascara as though this conversation wasn't altering the trajectory of my life. "Then you have 1 week to find other accommodations," she stated flatly. "I won't have someone living under my roof who so blatantly disrespects family priorities." As I turned to face her, she delivered the blow she had clearly rehearsed. "If you want to live like junk, then go live in your junk house, but don't expect to be welcomed back when your little project inevitably fails." She rose and moved toward the door, pausing for dramatic effect. "You've embarrassed this family enough already." Patricia texted me last night saying she's genuinely concerned about your mental state. After she left, I sat motionless at my vanity, mascara wand suspended in midair, as the reality of my situation crystallized. In 1 week, I would be effectively homeless, as the house wouldn't be habitable immediately after purchase. The auction was still 2 days away. Despite my outward confidence, doubt crept in. Was I making a catastrophic mistake? My phone chimed with a text from Vanessa. "Mom told me what happened. I'm really worried about you. This isn't like you to be so selfish. Maybe we could talk. I'm sure we can find a compromise where you could still contribute something to the retreat." The manipulative phrasing wasn't lost on me, and I left it unanswered as I finished preparing for work. Throughout the day, messages arrived from various family members. Aunt Patricia suggested the name of her therapist. Uncle Richard offered to talk sense into me over golf on Saturday. Cousin Melanie, always Mother's informant, asked pointed questions about my sudden interest in derelict properties. Only my cousin James sent something supportive. "Whatever you decide, know that I've got your back. Mom and Aunt Elaine don't speak for all of us." That evening, I began the painful process of sorting my belongings, separating necessities from items that could go into storage. The auction proceeded as scheduled, and with surprisingly no competing bids, I became the owner of the Victorian house for exactly $900 plus fees. Mother's expression when I showed her the deed was a mixture of disbelief and disappointment that cut deeper than expected. "You've actually gone through with this insanity," she stated, shaking her head. "I honestly thought you'd come to your senses." The remaining days passed in uncomfortable silence. Vanessa alternated between ignoring me completely and making tearful appeals about family loyalty. Mother moved between cold fury and theatrical sighs of disappointment. By the weekend, I had arranged for my essential belongings to be transported to the house. Despite Tyler's warnings that it wasn't ready for habitation, the utilities are connected now, but there's no hot water yet, and the heating system is questionable at best, he cautioned as we unloaded my car. "You sure you don't want to crash at my place until we've handled the basics?" I declined his offer, feeling a stubborn need to prove, perhaps primarily to myself, that I could make this work. That first night alone in the empty house was a test of resolve I nearly failed. With only a camping mattress on the floor of what would eventually become my bedroom, battery-powered lanterns casting eerie shadows on peeling wallpaper, and the persistent sound of water dripping somewhere in the distance, I curled into my sleeping bag and finally allowed myself to cry. The tears came not just from fear or uncertainty, but from a deeper wound. The realization that my family had assigned me so little value that they would discard me entirely for daring to prioritize my own dreams. As temperatures dropped to uncomfortable levels in the drafty house, I questioned every decision that had led me to this moment. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by strange house sounds and the weight of my own doubts. The first morning in my new home brought unexpected consolation. I awoke to sunlight streaming through the east-facing windows, filtering through decades of dust on the glass, yet somehow transforming the shabby room into something almost magical. The light illuminated details I hadn't fully appreciated during the inspection. Intricate crown molding, the subtle pattern in the hardwood flooring, and the perfect proportions of the 10-foot ceilings. Working with Tyler, I developed a strategic renovation plan focusing first on creating one habitable zone. A functional bathroom, safe electrical system, and weatherproof roof became the priorities. My savings, severely depleted by the necessary professional work, wouldn't stretch to conventional renovations beyond these essentials. This limitation became my unexpected education. YouTube tutorials became my evening companions as I learned to strip wallpaper, repair plaster, refinish floors, and paint like a professional. The local hardware store, initially intimidating with its overwhelming options, gradually became familiar territory, where staff greeted me by name and offered advice freely. During my third week of ownership, a tentative knock at the front door revealed an elderly woman clutching a plate of homemade cookies. "I'm Irene Davenport from next door," she introduced herself, eyes warm with curiosity. "I've been watching your progress and thought you might need sustenance." Irene, it turned out, had lived in the neighborhood for 60 years and remembered Margaret Winters, the home's last owner. Such a lovely woman, though quite private in her later years, Irene reminisced as she helped me wash decades of grime from the kitchen windows. She would be pleased to see someone bringing life back to this old place. Through Irene, I connected with other neighbors, some initially skeptical of my project, but increasingly supportive as they witnessed my daily efforts. The neighborhood handyman lent me specialized tools with informal tutorials. A retired carpenter offered to help rebuild the front porch in exchange for my assistance organizing his deceased wife's extensive library. At Tyler's suggestion, I created an Instagram account documenting the restoration process, partly to track progress, and partly to connect with other old house enthusiasts. What began as occasional posts about specific projects unexpectedly gained followers, people fascinated by the transformation and offering encouragement or advice. 6 weeks into the renovation, I received my first sponsorship offer from a company specializing in period-appropriate hardware, providing authentic replacements for missing doorknobs and hinges in exchange for feature posts. Despite working full-time and spending every evening and weekend on the house, I discovered reserves of energy I never knew I possessed. Each small victory, a cleaned chandelier revealing its crystal beauty, a repaired section of ornate trim, the first properly functioning bathroom, built confidence that extended beyond home improvement skills. Mother's predicted check-in calls never materialized. The family silence was nearly complete, aside from occasional updates from James. Through him, I learned that Vanessa's retreat planning continued, funded by Mother's increasingly significant contributions and loans from other relatives. My absence from family gatherings was apparently explained as a concerning phase I was going through. While the estrangement hurt, it also created space for new relationships. The DIY restoration community introduced me to people who valued creativity, resourcefulness, and authenticity over appearances, qualities that had never been currency in the Foster household. For the first time in my life, I was building connections based on genuine shared interests rather than obligation or proximity. As fall turned to winter, the house slowly became more comfortable. The new roof and repaired windows kept out the elements. The restored central heating system, a significant investment that consumed the last of my savings, provided reliable warmth. The kitchen, though still sporting mismatched salvaged cabinets and second-hand appliances, became functional enough for simple meals. Each evening, I would sit in my gradually evolving living room, surrounded by tools and paint samples, and feel something I recognized as contentment, a quiet pride in creating something meaningful from what others had discarded. 6 months into the renovation, Disaster struck without warning. I awoke at 3 a.m. to the sound of rushing water and stumbled downstairs to find the first-floor ceiling had partially collapsed, water pouring from a burst pipe in the upstairs bathroom. Frantically calling Tyler while simultaneously trying to locate the main water shutoff, I watched in horror as water damaged fresh plasterwork and newly refinished floors. The subsequent days brought grim news. Insurance would cover only a fraction of the damage due to the property's transitional renovation status. The necessary repairs would cost thousands I didn't have, potentially derailing the entire project. As I sat amidst the wreckage, calculating whether a personal loan could cover the repairs without bankrupting me, an unexpected knock came at the front door. My mother stood on the porch, immaculately dressed as always, taking in my disheveled appearance with a critical eye. "James mentioned you've had some problems," she said by way of greeting. "I thought I should see this situation for myself." Her inspection of the house was methodical, noting progress with grudging acknowledgement, but lingering on unfinished areas and water damage with obvious disapproval. "You've certainly been working hard," she finally conceded, running a finger along a freshly painted trim. "Though I maintain this entire project was ill-conceived." We settled in the only fully furnished room, the small library I'd prioritized as my sanctuary. "Vanessa's retreat project has encountered difficulties," Mother announced after declining my offer of tea in a chipped mug. "The investor who promised matching funds withdrew unexpectedly. The family contributions, including my significant portion, are currently at risk." The familiar pressure became immediately clear. "I didn't come to ask for help," she continued, though her tone suggested otherwise. "But it occurs to me that this property, despite its obvious challenges, might have appreciated somewhat with your improvements. A quick sale could be advantageous for both of us." The implication hung in the air. Sell my house to finance Vanessa's failing project. "I'm not selling," I stated simply. Mother's composure slipped momentarily. "After everything this family has done for you? Your sister is facing financial ruin, and you sit in this monument to selfishness and refuse to help?" Something unexpected happened then. Not a dramatic confrontation, as I might have once imagined, but a calm clarity that settled over me like the dust in a long unopened room. "What exactly has this family done for me, Mother?" I asked quietly. "When have my dreams ever been supported the way Vanessa's have been? When has my practical approach to life been valued instead of dismissed? This house isn't a monument to selfishness. It's the first place where I've ever truly belonged, where my work and vision matter." Mother's expression shifted between shock and indignation. "We gave you everything growing up. We supported your education. You tolerated my choices while making it clear they disappointed you," I interrupted, surprising us both. "You've been waiting my entire life for me to become someone else. Someone more like Vanessa. Someone more like you. I'm done waiting for approval that will never come." The silence that followed felt weightless, as though a burden I'd carried for decades had finally been set down. "I think you should leave now," I said, standing to show her to the door. "I have a ceiling to repair." After she left, I leaned against the closed door, expecting tears or regret. Instead, I felt an unfamiliar lightness, the liberation of speaking truth after years of careful silence. The water damage crisis, though still very real, somehow seemed less overwhelming. That evening, my phone buzzed with unexpected messages from restoration community followers offering assistance after seeing my post about the setback. A local plumbing company, intrigued by the historic aspects of the project, offered discounted labor. Tyler arrived with 2 friends from his construction company, volunteering a Saturday to help with the ceiling repairs. Most surprising was a message from Vanessa, sent privately. "I saw Mom after she visited you. She's furious, but I think she's also shocked that you stood up to her. For what it's worth, I'm jealous of what you're creating there. It's authentically yours in a way my retreat project never was. It was always about Mom's vision, not mine. The message concluded with a tentative question. Would it be weird if I came to see your house sometime? Just me, no Mom, no drama. The reconciliation wasn't immediate or complete, but it was a beginning. The first sincere communication we'd shared in years. As I worked alongside my new community of supporters, replacing damaged materials and implementing improved water systems, I realized the crisis had revealed something crucial. I was no longer alone, no longer the invisible foster daughter, waiting for validation. I had built not just a house, but a life with its own foundation, structure, and purpose. 1 year after purchasing my junk house for $900, I hosted an open house celebration marking the substantial completion of the main floor renovation. The transformation stunned even those who had witnessed the progress incrementally. The once collapsing front porch now featured restored Victorian details and comfortable seating. Inside, original hardwood floors gleamed beneath area rugs salvaged from estate sales. The living room's focal point, a marble fireplace I'd uncovered, beneath layers of drywall, displayed period-appropriate restoration. The kitchen, though still budget-conscious, combined salvaged cabinets refinished in complementary colors with modern appliances and butcher block countertops for a charm that expensive renovations often lack. 2 weeks before the celebration, I'd received an unexpected phone call from a real estate appraiser. A local historical society member suggested I evaluate your property, she explained. They're considering featuring exemplary renovations in their annual tour. The resulting appraisal valued the house at just over $200,000, a figure that validated my vision in terms even my mother might understand. The Historical Society did indeed select my house for their tour, and a regional home improvement magazine contacted me about featuring the renovation in an upcoming issue. My restoration Instagram account had grown to 30,000 followers, resulting in partnership opportunities that helped fund the remaining projects. Amid the celebration's warmth and congratulations, I noticed Vanessa standing somewhat uncertainly near the entrance. Our relationship had been rebuilding slowly through occasional texts and coffee meetings, each of us carefully navigating new boundaries. "This is incredible, Morgan," she said, taking in the details with genuine appreciation. "You've created something really special here." For the first time in our adult lives, we had a conversation unmarked by competition or comparison. Just two sisters sharing authentic thoughts and experiences. "The retreat didn't happen," she admitted as we sat in the garden I'd begun reclaiming from years of neglect. "But honestly, I'm relieved. It was never really my passion, just something that seemed impressive enough to satisfy Mom's expectations." 2 months after the celebration, Mother finally requested a proper tour. Her visit was brief and guarded, but I caught genuine surprise in her expression as she took in the transformation. "You've certainly proven your point," she conceded, running her hand across the restored banister. Though a traditional modern home would have been far less trouble. It wasn't an apology or full recognition, but from Elaine Foster, it represented significant movement. The small family gathering I hosted that Christmas was tentative and occasionally awkward, but it represented a shift from complete estrangement to cautious reconnection. As the house continued evolving, so too did my understanding of its significance in my life. What began as a practical solution to homeownership had become a journey of self-discovery. The skills I'd developed led to weekend workshops I now offered for women interested in basic home renovation, creating community around shared learning. Each class that filled with enthusiastic participants reinforced what had become my core belief: that both people and houses contain inherent value, often invisible to those unwilling to look beneath surface imperfections. The $900 SAR investment had yielded returns far beyond financial appreciation. It had shown me my own resilience, creativity, and worth independent of family validation. The crisis that forced me out of my childhood home had ultimately guided me to where I truly belonged. Sometimes, I told my workshop participants as we restored an antique door together. The things others discard become our greatest treasures, not despite their flaws, but because working through those imperfections reveals what's genuinely valuable underneath. As my story has unfolded through this video, I'd love to know if you've ever had a moment where rejection or criticism ultimately led you to something better. Drop your experiences in the comments below, and if this journey of transformation resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button for more stories about finding strength in unexpected places. Thank you for sharing this renovation journey with me, and remember, sometimes the most beautiful transformations begin when someone sees possibility where everyone else sees only problems.
Knowing that this girl was being controlled by someone using a slave ring, Rio removed the collar to free her, and she said that the person who ordered her to hunt her close to Rio was the noble boy who pushed Laura down. The bear-skinned girl introduced herself as Latifah, and since she had nowhere to go right now, she begged to go with Rio. The two of them went together to the unexplored eastern land, and during an overnight camping, Rio had her mention Tokyo in her sleep. So, Rio knew that she was also the Japanese who were reincarnated into this world like him. They had headed straight for a huge oak tree to continue, and while taking a break in the middle of the road, Rio encountered a group of demi-humans. Seeing that Rio didn't show any hostility, the girl leader Sarah talked to him, but when they saw Latifah sleeping in the tent, they rushed to attack Rio because they thought he had kidnapped a person among their fellows. Rio alone couldn't resist all force, so he was quickly taken back to the demi-human village. And when Latifah regained consciousness, a misunderstanding would clear up. So, the village chef forced the demi-human girls to quickly apologize to him. The next day, Rio was invited by the village chefs to the meeting with them, and they were very grateful to Rio because he protected one of their kind, Latifah. Right after that, Rio was met by a female tree spirit as well as the people's god named Dairas, and she discovered a humanoid spirit like her residing inside of Rio. Then said that he was perfectly capable of using spirit art. Rio and Latifah have been prepared by the village chefs for a beautiful tree house, and Sarah's group will also live here to protect them. In the time that followed, Rio learned spiritual art and many other new things from the people of the village, and he was considered by the people here as an extremely important friend. In a place not far from the village, Reis and one of his servants went to the dragon's cave, and he stole one of their eggs. So the dragon chased him to claim eggs again. Meanwhile, everyone had a party to celebrate Rio's 1-year anniversary with Latifah coming to their village. And the bear-skinned girls were constantly clinging to Rio after drinking too much. Reis had a servant carry the egg to lure the dragons away, and he was snapped